What if I told you one of America's founding fathers once begged scientists to make fart pills? Benjamin Franklin is famed for discovering electricity and founding a nation, but behind the statesman's spectacles was a man of bizarre habits, scandalous exploits, and revolutionary ideas that history books often ignore. From writing essays on flatulence to hiding bodies in his basement, Franklin's life was far stranger than you ever imagined. And here's where it gets even stranger. Franklin, while serving as ambassador to France in 1781, wrote an essay titled Fart Proudly. Yep, you heard that right. In it, he mocked the Royal Academy by suggesting they invent a drug that could make human farts smell good. According to him, that would be a bigger contribution to humanity than the endless obscure studies filling their journals. Franklin even described in detail how digestive gases worked, mixing science with satire in a way only he could. Imagine the nation's most respected statesman seriously arguing for perfumed flatulence. Crazy, right? Would you have dared to put your name on something like that? But wait, it gets even more shocking. Literally. Back in 1748, Franklin planned a picnic powered entirely by electricity. His wild idea: use electrical current to roast a turkey. Instead, he ended up shocking himself so badly that he was knocked unconscious and injured his pride more than anything else. Witnesses described him as dazed and embarrassed, but Franklin, being Franklin, laughed it off. Beyond the turkey, he had ambitious plans to use electricity to light fires, heat glasses for toasts, and even set off explosions. Talk about a man ahead of his time. Just when you think his eccentricity couldn't get weirder, Franklin revealed one of his strangest health habits: the air bath. Every morning, he sat completely naked in front of an open window for hours. He believed sickness wasn't caused by cold weather, but by breathing stale, trapped air. And surprisingly, he wasn't entirely wrong. His idea actually linked to the spread of germs in poorly ventilated spaces, though people didn't understand germ theory yet. Neighbors, however, just saw a famous statesman casually lounging nude by the window. Franklin wasn't shy about his romantic life. History credits him with up to 15 illegitimate children and countless affairs, even well into old age. In one infamous essay, Advice on the Choice of a Mistress, he shockingly suggested that young men should pursue older women. His reasoning? They were more experienced, more grateful, and, his words, "In the dark, all cats are gray." For Franklin, intimacy was both pleasure and philosophy, a mix of scandal and pragmatism that made him one of the most unfiltered figures of his era.
They found in his house?
No.
Like tons of bodies, bro.
What?
Ben Franklin, they found tons of bodies in his...
Ben Franklin was a serial killer?
Franklin's tale then takes a somber turn here. 10 people, including 6 children, had almost 200 human bone fragments found by workmen excavating under his London home at 36 Craven Street in 1998. Initially, it set off unsubstantiated claims of killing, but later research suggested Franklin's close friend, anatomist William Hewson, who likely used the cellar for dissections. Still under discussion is whether Franklin knew about the horrifying experiments, but the discovery added a haunting mystery to his legacy, casting shadows beneath the picture of the sharp statesman. Franklin's exceptional charity is highlighted here. He never filed a patent for even one of the world-altering inventions he developed, including the lightning rod and the Franklin stove. He justified his actions in his memoir by saying that since all people gain from others' ideas, it was only right to give back freely. He thought that his creations ought to benefit mankind without profit or limitation. Franklin, however, actively pursued storms rather than only seeking notoriety. While in Maryland in 1754, he mounted a horse to follow a tornado that was developing. He watched as it swept rubbish into its swirling column and tore leaves from trees. When others believed waterspouts were composed of liquid, Franklin rightly deduced they were columns of air rising. His inquisitiveness developed into some of the first storm science. Here's the irony.
Is it your purpose to destroy everything we've accomplished? To engineer the recall of the fleet under Admiral D'Estaing? Or is this some new kind of diplomatic initiative? The direct insult followed by the petulant whine.
Franklin, who shaped American education, only had 2 years of formal schooling himself. Yet his relentless self-education later earned him honorary degrees from some of the world's most prestigious institutions, including Harvard, Yale, William and Mary, Oxford, and the University of St. Andrews. Beyond that, he co-founded the University of Pennsylvania, proving that passion and persistence could outshine traditional credentials.
You're up to something.
I would not claim otherwise.
When Franklin arrived at the French court, he didn't wear fancy wigs or silk coats. Instead, he showed up in a simple fur hat and plain Quaker-style clothing. To the French elite, this wasn't seen as shabby. It was exotic, authentic, and refreshing. His humble look sparked a full-on fashion craze, with nobles imitating the rustic frontiersman image by dressing a la Franklin. His fur cap in particular became legendary, symbolizing the rugged American spirit. Franklin cleverly leaned into this persona, knowing it won sympathy and support for the revolution. In a room filled with powdered wigs, his simplicity spoke louder than gold. Franklin's wit started early. At just 16, working in his brother's print shop, he wasn't allowed to publish under his own name. So, he invented an alter ego, a sharp, witty widow named Silence Doe Good. Through a series of letters, she poked fun at society, preached common sense, and quickly became a local sensation. The letters grew so popular that real readers sent marriage proposals to the fictional widow. His brother, however, wasn't amused when he discovered the trick, and their already tense relationship worsened. Still, it marked the beginning of Franklin's career as both a writer and a master of satire. Even after death, Franklin loved surprising people. In his will, he left £2,000 each to Boston and Philadelphia with unusual instructions. The money was to be invested for 100 years, then partially distributed, with the remainder locked away for yet another century. By the 20th century, these trusts had grown into millions. The funds went on to support institutions like the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia and the Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology in Boston, proving that Franklin's foresight reached far beyond his own lifetime. Franklin wasn't just a thinker, he was a doer.
Wires you to be.
In 1736, he organized the Union Fire Company in Philadelphia, also called the Bucket Brigade. It was America's first volunteer fire department, created after Franklin wrote passionately in the Pennsylvania Gazette about the dangers of poor fire preparedness. His initiative inspired countless others. Franklin was a keen swimmer, long before swimming became a popular pastime. Here is an interesting fact. Early swim fins designed as hand paddles were his invention, and he even experimented with kites to skim across the surface of the ocean. He thought youngsters should learn to swim as part of their education and frequently urged him to create a swimming school. Centuries later, his long-term love for water earned him an honorary position in the International Swimming Hall of Fame, so becoming among the most well-known non-professional swimmers ever. Franklin was the first actual American celebrity long before Hollywood celebrities. The public in France was so enthralled with him that his picture showed everywhere, on jewelry, medallions, and snuff boxes. People loved him for his humor, wit, and personality, as well as for his political views. The madness was so great that the initial English edition of his memoir came out in French rather than in English. His recognition showed Franklin to be a cultural icon rather than merely a statesman. On July 26, 1775, the Continental Congress appointed Franklin as the very first Postmaster General. He quickly set up a functioning national mail system, surveying routes, establishing accounting methods, and launching both day and night riders. His work laid the foundation for the U.S. Postal Service.
This is a dangerous game. That's just the sort of game I like.
Franklin was also a devoted chess player, not just a politician. Starting about 1733, he carried the game with him all his life, even throughout his years as ambassador in Paris, when he frequently played with elite Europeans. Arguing that chess sharpened patience, foresight, and critical thinking, he penned an essay in 1779 called The Morals of Chess. Franklin's enthusiasm for chess was officially acknowledged years later in 1999 when he was posthumously inducted into the U.S. Chess Hall of Fame, therefore solidifying his position as one of the first chess supporters of the United States. And here, Franklin's inventiveness struck a different chord, literally. Fascinated by the sound of musical glasses, he created the glass harmonica in 1761. The instrument had glass bowls of various sizes mounted on a rod, rotated with a foot pedal, and played with wet fingers. Audiences all around Europe were charmed by the eerily lovely melody. It even enthralled illustrious musicians like Mozart and Beethoven, who wrote compositions only for the harmonica. Franklin himself conceded this was the creation that brought him the greatest personal satisfaction, proof of his enjoyment from art and science. Franklin's inquiring mind covered even language. Seeking to simplify English spelling, he created his own phonetic alphabet between 1760 and 1770. He limited every letter to a single sound and got rid of what he regarded superfluous letters: C, J, Q, W, X, and Y. Though sensible, the approach turned out to be too extreme to resonate. Franklin still liked playing around with it, and even wrote personal letters using the alphabet. Though it never superseded English spelling, the project demonstrated his ongoing desire to reevaluate the mundane, even in places most people take for granted. Benjamin Franklin was so much more than a founding father with a kite. He was a complex, brilliant, and wonderfully weird individual whose curiosity knew no bounds. His life reminds us that true genius lies in questioning the ordinary. So if you enjoyed this, hit like, share, and subscribe for more.